So I haven't had a chance to talk about the NXT Takeover show in Brooklyn last Friday. I was there. I was in the building, and originally I was not going to go to the show because originally it was running head to head with the Madison Square Garden G1 Supercard the Saturday before WrestleMania. So I had to make a choice. Which show do I want to go to? Takeover is always a great show, so you know what you're going to get with those shows. But I've been to so many different takeovers, I thought, to go to MSG, first non-WWE wrestling show for me ever in the building, and to see some of the New Japan stars would be really cool. So we got our tickets to go to the G1 Supercard, up in the nosebleeds, up in the catwalk section, but at least we got tickets. And then WWE, to their credit, decided to move the NXT show to the night before. So TakeOver would run on Friday, and the G1 Supercard would have Saturday night all to itself, other than the Hall of Fame, which turned out to be more eventful than anybody expected it to be. I'm glad I went. I'm glad I was able to go to the TakeOver show because it ended up being the best show of the entire weekend, WrestleMania included. And I would even go so far as to say that it was the best TakeOver show that they have ever done, with the greatest NXT match in history between Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, besting even the Gargano-Almas match from TakeOver Philly, which was my previous favorite NXT match of all time. The common denominator here being Johnny Gargano, who simply is on another level right now from pretty much everybody else. They showed Kushida in the crowd during the TakeOver show as their newest signee. He started at the NXT tapings this week. Is he the next Hideo Itami, or can he be much more? He could be much more. Of course he can. He's very talented. He spent, 8 years in New Japan and became a veteran of the junior heavyweight division. But he wanted to explore things beyond New Japan. It was the same thing we've heard from people like Nakamura and from people like Kenta before. I would certainly hope, judging by the run Hideo Itami had in WWE, that he does not turn out to be a case of the next Itami, and that he could find some success. I think in NXT he'll do well, but beyond that is just anybody's guess. If I had to give these matches on this TakeOver show star ratings, which I don't, but if I did, not a single match on this show was under 4 stars. You have the War Raiders retaining their tag team titles over Aleister Black and Ricochet, who of course won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic this year. War Raiders won with their fallout finish on Ricochet. This was the NXT swan song for Black and Ricochet. Hanson and Rowe, they hugged him when the match was over. They bowed to them out of respect. Ricochet had tears in his eyes. Of course he had tears in his eyes. He's thinking, please don't send me to the main roster. That's what he was thinking. Hell, I'd be crying too if I were him. But this was fantastic. This tag team, I can't say enough good things about that tag team opener. It was just fantastic. I loved the Velveteen Dream when he came out for his match with Matt Riddle. I love the Velveteen Dream tribute, if that's what it was intended to be. I don't know. To the Macho King, Randy Savage. Him being carried to the ring like Savage would be back in the day. He even busted out the old double axe handle from the top rope to the floor like Savage used to do, which is what killed his knees, doing that over a period of all those years. He was dressed like the Statue of Liberty for his entrance. Riddle, when he came out, actually got some boos early in this match. That's how into the Velveteen Dream the crowd was in Brooklyn. They didn't hate Matt Riddle. They just liked Dream more than they liked him. I thought this was the best match of Matt Riddle's tenure in NXT so far, and maybe even Dream. Dream's had some really good matches, but easily the best match of Riddle's tenure so far. He did give Dream a scary German suplex from the apron. He stood up on the second rope on the inside, and with Dream on the apron, he Germaned him just overhead into the ring, and Dream looked like he landed right on top of his head. Riddle then hit a twisting moonsault from the top for a near fall. He calls that the floating bro. Got him in the bro mission. Dream rolled over, cradled him for the win. Great match. I would love to see more between these two, unless one of them gets promoted in the Superstar Shakeup. And certainly Matt Riddle, I think, and Dream too. I think both these guys are ready. I think Dream could benefit from having more time in NXT and defending his championship, but if they promoted Matt Riddle to Raw or SmackDown, you wouldn't get any argument out of me. I think the guy is ready, and I think he'll get over. I do, in front of like a mainstream audience. He's got a certain charisma about him that I think it won't be hard for him to get over if he's given a chance. But me, I wouldn't mind these two hanging around NXT for a while and having a couple of more matches. This was great. We had Walter and Pete Dunn for the WWE United Kingdom Championship. 685 days for Dunn as champion. That is where it ends. Walter wins the title in a war. They're live. I thought the match slowed down a lot in the middle, but that was just the nature of the style they were wrestling, I suppose. I did enjoy it. I had this as the second from the bottom in terms of the matches I enjoyed the most. If I had to rank all the matches on this show, this would have ranked probably 4th out of 5th for me. But that is not an indictment of the match. It just is a case where all of the matches on the show were at least very good, if not great in some cases. But I just couldn't rank this above any of the other men's matches. Walter's move is the chop. Many of you know that already. You do not want to be chopped by this man. And so Dunn worked over his hand. It was a very technical-based match. We see this in a lot of Pete Dunne's matches, joint manipulation and that sort of thing. And so, technically speaking, it would make sense for him to work over Walter's hands, which is what he did. Walter kicked out of the bitter end. He powerbombed Dunn off the top rope halfway across the frickin' ring and then hit a giant splash off the top for the win. This felt like a war. This was a war. I'm sure when Pete Dunne woke up the next morning, he didn't feel too good. And stylistically, it was different from just about everything else on this show. Dunn did all he could do as the UK champion. 685 days with that title. He did all he could do. He ought to be included in the Superstar Shakeup this week. And Walter now can carry on the mantle on the UK brand. We had Shayna Baszler retaining her NXT Women's Championship over Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, and Bianca Belair. I thought Shirai was going to take it. I was surprised to see Shayna retain. I thought this would be a great place for her, if she was going to lose at some point, for her to drop the championship, given she didn't have to be pinned for it. And then she can move on up. Kairi and Io got into it a little bit. The two friends did during the match. Shayna choked out Bianca to retain the title. Very good. I thought this was very good, but nowhere near the level of any of the men's matches on this show. This was, if I had to rank them all, this would have been dead last. And then we had Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, 2 out of 3 falls for the vacant NXT Championship. What I loved, I loved a lot of things about this, but what I loved about this was that when Gargano came out in the building, he was booed. I don't know how it came across on TV, but he was booed by a vocal minority. It was clearly a minority, but still a vocal minority of the crowd. He got scattered boos throughout the building. The people were very much pro Adam Cole. Wasn't that they hated Johnny, it's that they were big into Adam Cole and doing his whole Adam Cole baby shtick and all that when he came out. By the end of this match, what made this so great is despite that, when this match was over, when Johnny won, the place exploded. And that is the sign of two pros who know how to control a crowd and who know how to tell a great story. It was almost 15 minutes before Cole won the first fall with the last shot. Second fall lasted about half that. Cole immediately tapped out to the Gargano escape, so he wouldn't be too badly hurt for the next fall, so he tapped out right away. So now we're in the third fall. Gargano got busted open hard way over his eye. He went headfirst into the ring post. We saw Cole hit Panama Sunrise, which I always love seeing that move. Gargano kicked out of that. Gargano kicked out of a lot of moves during this third fall, which makes this match very polarizing, judging by a lot of the feedback I saw. Because he kicked out of that. He kicked out of the fairy tale ending on the announce table, which did not break. A lot of kickouts. And I think that's why a lot of people either really, really loved this match or a lot of people really didn't like this match. And if they didn't like the match, it was because they felt there were too many I saw a lot of people shitting on this on my timeline. It was really, there was mixed feedback because of that to this match. And certainly those people are entitled to have that opinion. I'm not always a fan of that either, and I've called that out on occasion in the past. I used to criticize Ring of Honor years ago for it all the time because they did it in every single match from the opening match on down to the main event. Those old ROH shows from 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, before they brought Jim Cornette. I remember when they brought Jim Cornette in, one of the things that he wanted to try to change is the fact that you don't go on first and expect to put on a main event match. You had guys going out there wrestling like it was the final match, and they were in the opener. And he said everything is just sort of going to blend together after a while. You're going to exhaust people and nothing's going to feel special. So that was one of the changes I remember Jim Cornette implementing when he first sort of took the reins years later in Ring of Honor. And I think he was right in that. I think he made a very good point in doing that. Here, though, in this match, I have to say, it didn't bother me. Maybe I was just so wrapped up in the drama of it. Maybe it's because I was there in the building and I had a different vibe than it would have been if I was watching on TV, which I don't think is the case. But I don't know, maybe. Maybe there's something to that. Or maybe I just felt that it worked. Like in some of the bigger Okada matches in New Japan, where these guys are so, in the story, they're so bound and determined to win the title or to win back the title on instinct. They'll kick out of anything, right? And Okada in his matches has a great way of just having this dazed look on his face where it really feels like this guy's just kicking out of moves on instinct. And so sometimes it works. It may just boil down to the performer. Some guys can pull it off. Other guys just kick out of moves indiscriminately. They don't sell anything. And it does just feel like a spot fest. This didn't feel like that to me. It didn't bother me the way that it might bother me in some other matches. It just didn't. All I know is this. It did not ruin my enjoyment of this match, clearly, or the enjoyment of the people in the building who were making a lot of noise. They were into this thing every step of the way. And when Undisputed Era got involved, people booed like crazy. They did not want this match to end like that. And when Gargano fought them all off, it was just fantastic. Cole finally tapped out to the Gargano escape. The place came unglued, which is exactly the kind of reaction I think you would have hoped for after 2 years or so of this man chasing after that championship. Candice came out to celebrate with her husband. He hugged his parents in the crowd. His father was there. I think his health was too poor to make the trip to Philly for Gargano's match with Andrade Cien Almas a couple of years ago. And so him being there was a special thing. And then when the copyright box came on, with the two of them standing on stage, out walked Tommaso Ciampa, neck brace and all, and he hugs Johnny, and he embraces Johnny and Candice, and it's this great hug fest on stage, and he's celebrating with his friends. And I'm fine with that, because anybody who watched the videos they did on Champa on WWE's YouTube channel, or maybe it was the Performance Center YouTube channel, which if you're not subbed to that channel, you're missing out. I've plugged it before, I'll plug it again. It's great content on there. They've put out a couple of different videos on Ciampa, on his surgery and his recovery and him with his family and his wife and his kid. And I don't see how anybody can watch that and not look at this guy and just think he's the greatest guy in the world. You can't look at him as a heel if you watch those videos. It's obvious they've just abandoned that. And when he comes back, there's a good chance when he comes back, if he's able to come back, because he's had a lot of injuries, and this was a serious surgery that he had. And, Ciampa, I have to say this. Ciampa went on Twitter and maybe Instagram a few weeks ago and flat out admitted that his doctors told him, or his surgeon told him, that he's on borrowed time, which is the same thing they told people like Edge and others who ultimately had to retire early because of injuries. And he flat out publicly just admitted that, hey, I was told I'm on borrowed time. I don't know why you would do that. Now, I'm sure WWE is hip to all this. They got all the reports and everything. But that's not the kind of thing you would think like Vince McMahon would want to hear and think, hey, I'm gonna promote this guy on my shows. If anything, I think it would deter them from doing anything with him. I'm not convinced that Tommaso Ciampa is ever going to have any kind of career on the main roster. If he's able to come back, he could be NXT bound for the rest of his career. I don't know why you would want to admit something publicly like that, but that was distressing to hear, because clearly he's on borrowed time, like he said, and is not going to have this lengthy career like you would hope he's able to have. He's just too banged up. He's had too many injuries and too many surgeries, too many miles on his body. But out he walked. He had this genuine smile on his face, and I just thought, I watched these videos, and clearly they have just abandoned any concept of this guy being a bad guy anymore. And so it didn't bother me. And look, it's too bad we couldn't get the Gargano Ciampa payoff, but what we got instead was the greatest match in NXT history. And you can disagree with me on that. You can have your own personal favorites. That's cool. But don't try to change my mind, because you're not going to change my mind. There's a reason Mauro Ranallo called it the best wrestling match that he's ever called. And you look at Gargano's body of work in NXT alone, and just imagine what this guy could do with some of the big names on the main roster. I think Johnny Gargano, maybe more than any other single person, is going to be the greatest test case of what kind of influence Triple H truly has on the main roster and creative on the main roster with the talent that has been promoted from NXT. You know that Triple H thinks the world of Johnny Gargano. He sees this man's work, and if the day comes that Gargano gets called up and he finds himself in mid-card hell for any extended period of time on that main roster, we will know that it is truly Vince McMahon's show. Because there could be no way that Johnny Gargano, or there should be no way that Johnny Gargano goes to that main roster and fails as an underdog babyface. If he is just given the chance, there is no way that this guy is going to fail. He is one of the top, I would even say, 3 talents that they have right now in that entire company. And I hope they realize what they have in this guy. I really do.